Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about respect and authority, and within this talk about the concept of merit that once existed that pretty much no longer exists in any meaningful sense in Western society. In fact, there's every effort by the globalist controlled cabal to take merit out of all aspects of human interaction and business interaction and business dealings and so on. So, merit has now been transformed into the extent to which the globalist cabal can exercise control, and those that contribute most to that control. For example, if you're a fact checker working in social media and you cancel out all opposing voices to the globalist project, then you have meritoriously achieved what the globalists want you to do. So that's kind of the form of merit that's now replaced actual merit. And I'll talk a bit more about this, but when I and that's not that long ago. Whether it be at school, passing exams on a strictly pass or fail basis, and if you failed, you just had to study harder. And I remember doing not very well in an exam, a particular exam, and I remember going down to the library, which you had to do in those days. There was no internet online or anything, and I got to getting out the relevant texts that I needed, and that entire weekend up until 10 at night or whatever, I kept on going, just hitting the books and summarizing and re-summarizing and revising again until I had it all nailed down. And then when the next exam that came along, I totally nailed it. Not because I was the smartest kid in the universe, just because I hit the books hard and really went hard at it. And that's what merit is. Merit is you're prepared to, put in the work to get the prestigious outcome. In this case, coming. I think I came first in that exam, but putting that effort into to get that result. So merit comes from. Now there were kids, by the way, at school who had sort of like super photographic memories. There were kids that could they were just natural. They would just say mathematics. They could just look at something and go, oh yeah, the answer is such and such. I wasn't that good. I had to hit the books and do the hard yards if I wanted to get a good outcome. But aside from people with incredible sort of natural talent, which I don't know, what are they, 1 or 2 in every 1,000 or something? Apart from that, everyone else had to, if you wanted to get the good result, you had to do the work. And that was a form of merit. Now, that form of merit is gone. The idea is that for some reason there are certain kids from certain ethnic groups that are prepared to study hard and work hard, and other whether it be based on race or gender, that are not prepared to put in that sort of work, and they don't do as well. And the idea from terms of running a society or constituting a society, the idea is that all outcomes are equal, and therefore the difference between the kid, the hardworking kid that busts their ass, and the kid that does absolutely nothing and goofs off all the time in school, their outcome should still be exactly the same. And you see this now in the workplace and really all over. Now there's an argument, well, the people that do well are all Nazis, so they're morally bereft, whereas the people that do badly are all beautiful people, and therefore morally they're entitled to equality. And that's sort of the general overview type position that's going on. But it's had a knock-on effects in other areas, and I think it's the globalists are quite keen to have the societal destruction that this such an aggressive removal of merit from the system, from society, produces. It plays into the globalists' hands. But I just want to talk a bit about has respect and merit, or respect, I'll say in this instance, been lost. Now, when I first started working, or whether it be teachers or lecturers or the professors, whatever, I took the view, well, this person knows a whole lot more than I do. They worked hard to get where they are in a merit-based system. They've done well in exams. They've had to study hard, and they have greater knowledge and more achievements and so on. So I would accept that, and that created an automatic respect. Now, whether or not I thought much of them as people. Or thought, well, this person may be a brilliant mathematician, but they're socially quite dysfunctional. So, like I still had not well-formed views as a young, either like a high school student or a college student, or even starting out in the workplace. But I didn't have well-formed views on that. But I still respected the achievement, the core of the person in the circumstance I was in. So I respected the teacher and the college lecturer, given I was there for a purpose of education, and they were quite competent in their field, aside from whatever else I may have thought of them. Now, in the workplace, it was the same thing. When I first started, sort of, this is going sort of starting career type employment rather than just casual jobs, and I might have got around the place. As a student, so I respected the people who interviewed me, and the people who hired me, the people I reported to, my boss and all this sort of thing. I respected their achievements. They were brighter than me. They'd achieved more than I was. Some of them were very bright, and I've always enjoyed working amongst bright people, the shared values within that. But these people were brighter than me. They'd achieved a lot. They were, in the main at least, hardworking, and they were great role models for people, for young people coming through to see or to observe in action. They were bright, diligent, and they achieved all this through merit. So you knew that the person that you're reporting to had got there because they had achievements to their credit, and that was an automatic respect. And I also knew there's a certain sort of confidence within respect. I knew if I got stuck working something out or stuck doing something I couldn't work out how to, get from sort of A to B or something like that, I could go to these people, and these higher credentialed people that I respected, and so how can you show me how to do this, or can you explain this to me, and these sorts of things. And it could have been a technical issue, a logistical issue, organizational issue, it didn't matter. These people had the answers because they'd been through it. They'd had to achieve themselves within that sort of environment and situation, and therefore they had the expertise to be able to mentor me as a young guy on this or that issue. I wouldn't call it mentoring necessarily, but a bit of hand holding, whatever you want to call it. But and I knew I could go to them with confidence, and that they would make the time, if not on the spot. They'd arrange a time to give this support and assistance. And I knew that what they would tell me would be reliable. I could bank on it and go, okay, I'll do that. And so I had generally quite a lot of trust, as in social trust and faith in the concept of hierarchy, that these people were better qualified. They did have the answer. And if they didn't have 100% of the answer, they certainly had much more of the answer than I had. So I thought this, and I had a lot of respect. So when they would sit down and say, look, Billy Bob, these are the areas you need to work on to improve yourself, I would listen avidly. Oh, okay, right. And even thinking back now, maybe not every instance was correct. Particularly, people had a lot of reports, so they were pretty busy, and things would get lost in the background noise. And I appreciated that, but generally they were quite impartial. I'd say, well, Billy Bob, you need to put more time into this, or you need to do this, so and so. And their guidance was useful. It was helpful to me wanting to better myself and become a more productive, more capable, higher achieving employee. So that I found, and again, that was a sort of cycle, a circle of respect. Now, not every boss fell into that category, by the way. There were some that weren't, but I was satisfied to learn that in the main, not every time, but in the main, these substandard people, people that were easily caught up in petty spite, particularly petty spite and these sorts of things, that they didn't really last that long, or they may end up finding themselves, demoted to a more junior role. So the ones that were incapable of doing their job, and the ones that fell into again these petty spite and bickering and things like that were generally didn't last that long. Now, I suppose I was in my mid to late, maybe 26, 27, somewhere around there, and I got a female boss, and she would have been, I don't know, 10, 12 years older than me, something like that. And she was, I don't know if she's affirmative action or she had intimate relationship with, one of the CEO or something, I don't know, but there's no way she was qualified for this. And that came by. I mean, the stark difference between her performance, ability, capacity, and the male boss that I just previously had, it was chalk and cheese. I mean, seriously, they were just universes apart. I was dealing with someone who had an attitude, behaviour, and credentials and achievements that were less than mine, and this was supposed to be my boss. So she was engaged in endless amounts of little petty, spiteful behaviours. She would demand that I had to. She would have these. Coffee and cake type things, and she would demand that you had to come and have coffee and cake with her, the pettiness of it. I mean, these are the tactics of the petty people. And by the way, I've come across others, not simply this woman, but I'll use this one to illustrate the point. Instead of their internal phones or internal systems and procedures, if you want to have a meeting with somebody, you can call them up on the internal phone, or there's a very basic sort of messaging system to say, let's make an appointment on this time. But instead, they try and ramp up the drama, and they'll grab some mignon somewhere and tell Billy Bob, I want to see him. And so you get the minion comes around. You think, well, why don't you just call me on the internal phone or something? I mean, gee, why do you? So then you go over, and so I go over and see her and say, you wanted to see me about something? And then she'd be pretending to be busy writing something, or and then she'd say, sit down, but the tone would be as if she was talking to some wayward primary school child or something, and she's the headmistress. It was, the attempt to establish sort of, moral power outside of, her natural abilities and achievements. And this is where I think we are today generally. And this was sort of a quick early snapshot that I saw of it. And so sitting down, and she keeps on, doing what she's doing on the, pretending to write or do something. And so I said, well, look, you're in the middle of something. I'll come back. Sit there and don't move. The tone in it. Something, by the way, I come across today from, diversity inclusion type people, and, women who've been, different minorities have been terribly over promoted, beyond or outside of any achievements or abilities or credentials, which are now everywhere today. But at the time, when I was that age, mid 20s or so, you didn't really come across very many of those. You did, but not very many. And so, so I say, no, look, I'm getting no, you're busy. I'll come back when you're not busy. But the whole idea is, you're sort of required to sit there and suffer a form of humiliation that what I'm doing is far more important than you are. Now, if I'd come in to see her and she said, "Well, just wait until I finish this," that would be. But I've been summoned, dramatically, and it's all for the moral sort of thing of establishing a form of moral ascendancy that's outside of any natural or organic chain of respect and natural respect and achievements and so on. And I think this is where we are today, this creating of a perverted form of ideological moral respect for people who have no achievements, no credentials, no qualifications that justify that, which I think breaks down the entire chain of respect. But so I go back to my desk and she follows me, flushed all red. I said, sit there. And I said, and she's attempting to. Well, what does he want to talk about then? Okay, so I go back. So all right, now this time she stops writing and then looks at me and so, how's it going? Fine. What do you want to see me about? This huge drama that it's now become. It must be a pretty big issue. What do you want to see me about? So, how's it going? Well, fine. Again, what do you want to talk to me about? Well, why don't you bring me up to date on what you're doing? I want to know what you're doing. And the whole thing is just to try and talk things around in circles and then pounce on something and go, you're not up to it. I'm not happy with your performance. And sort of, but it's all a moral sort of ascendancy game that you see the diversity and inclusion people, the fact checkers in the social media today. They're all playing in effect that same game. This I am morally superior, I am morally ascendant, and you're a damn Nazi. Now, the difference is that I got to, even then, I got to where I was through achievement and hard work and merit. She had not. And it came across. Now, she resented people who had got where they'd got by merit because it made her feel bad about herself. So if I went, there's no point in going to her with a problem or something I was trying to sort out. She had no idea. She just simply wasn't qualified. Now, anyway, she didn't last that long, so the problem was taken away. But it gave me that early snapshot into how in the real practical world of getting things done and achieving things, how important respect was for the achievements of others. Now it's a little bit different now that someone can say, well, I went on 100 climate change protest marches and I wrote 50 placards saying all white people are Nazis. And that now passes as an achievement. Oh, wow. Oh, you're so incredible. Oh, you are so good. Oh, wow. Oh, shit. You are a god. And that's considered achievement. I'm fighting back against the Nazis. And you are morally. And there are quite a few people around, particularly the race grifters and hustlers, climate change grifters and hustlers, and all sorts of create social division. Grifters and hustlers, they have that form of that's what's to be respected. That's the exemplar of moral purity and the high watermark of achievement and so on. Something that's echoed really across the media as well. So the point I'm making here is this has caused a massive breakdown in the natural organic systems of respect that really have their derivative values in a merit system. I had confidence at a time that my bosses were more experienced, more capable, more knowledgeable, had more achievements and so on. But even by and there are two moving sort of matrix here, two moving parts, and I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. But by the time, even by sort of the mid 1990s, particularly in American firms, I was starting to see it was becoming, I wouldn't say rare at that point, but whereas I could count on the people that my bosses or the technical experts or the whatever, that they would all be better qualified than me. and that they could assist me, and they, if not better qualified, they'd earned their position from on a merit-based system, and their credentials were unquestioned, and they knew what they were doing, and were far more capable than someone that hadn't been through that system. But that was changing already. Those people were starting to disappear and being replaced by affirmative action quotas. That was already coming in then. And so I found that in increasingly people that I was having to deal with, or people that were even people that were interviewing me, like say in a job interview, and I was tapped on the shoulder plenty of times for a job, and I'd go and meet people who I'm sitting there thinking, Jesus, I wouldn't employ you. Now they may have been prepared to employ me for whatever reasons, but I'd be looking at them thinking, fuck, I wouldn't employ you. There's no way you're qualified to be doing this job. It's an outrage that you're even in this position. And I remember sitting down, with being interviewed by people that were being paid $2 million a year with their bonuses and stock options and the like. I wasn't getting $2 million a year at that point, or since, by the way. But they're getting $2 million a year, and one lady had been she'd been a demonstrator in a computer supermarket, so she was demonstrating some IT type product in a computer supermarket, and that was the height. That's all she'd ever achieved. And then she'd gone from that to being executive international vice president of sales. That just in one move. So she'd gone from $35,000 a year income to $2 million a year just in one jump. And those sort of things, I was seeing that more and more, and realizing that qualified people were being passed over in favour of. So that was the beginning of it, and where I saw the beginning of the merit system and the respect system breaking down. Now, I wondered at the time, have I reached a point of achievement and credentials and qualifications have I reached a point where there are just fewer people that are, have more achievements, and thus fewer of the pool of people to respect, from when I was a young guy, has shrunk. Therefore, it appears that there's less, there are less qualified people around. And no, I don't believe it was that, because I sit down and talk to people who I'd known from, say, 15, 20 years previous or something like that, and I'd still say, wow, that guy's still really bright, or that guy still really knows his shit, and that sort of thing. So I don't think it was that. I think there were, as the merit system broke down due to this, equity and equal outcome thing, that the ability to respect people for their qualifications and achievements and so on, I think that's almost completely broken down. And in fact, the opposites occurred. If I'm talking to, in the business I've got to share, and if I'm talking to people around the place in not only the commercial world but public service now, they take the attitude that anybody, straight white male, they're really referring, anybody with confidence and real achievements and self-assurance in what they've achieved and what they're capable of, they're about as close to the Nazi image that these people have as you can get, because they make other people feel insecure. He's this confident, high-achieving, straight white male running around, and he's making all these affirmative action hires, and people have no merit at all anywhere from junior high school right through to the present day, that they have this insecurity about having anyone confident or high achieving around, because it makes them feel bad about themselves. And I think this represents a complete dislocation. And I'll be looking forward to seeing your comments below. Can we even recover the respect that came from a merit-based system? You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback Channel. Thank you for listening.